Well, hello once again, my friends, or hello for the first time. Hambbage here, and yep, let's uh, let's celebrate Joel and get on back to it. We've got Toehold on Eternity. For me, it's a brand new day, and yeah, we got a few things that we kind of just kind of need and want to do before we head into full on netherwriting mode. So we are here. I think we were gonna finish up this pick. Not that we super need it, but I think that was kind of the mind state when we left off. Oh, that's right. I believed, had just raged, and yeah, there they are. Let's not pick them up. Threw all those rockets away. That's about as ragey as I get, but that that thing frustrates me to no end. Like, don't. I'm looking at one thing, I'm making it, I run out of pieces. Don't make something else for me out of the pieces. They're different things. So what are we doing? For anybody who hasn't just watched recent videos, um, until fairly recently, we were working on this big project. It is a creeper farm, in case you can't tell, a darkroom spawner. Set up at 90, I don't even know, 89% for creepers. It's actually probably a little higher than that. I don't know. We got 4 times 5 floors, so 20 floors, all creepers, then another 3, and one of 1.5, maybe. So I don't know, 22.5 to 1.5 creepers to general public spawning floors. So you figure that out. Anyway, that's what we've been working on. In the last couple episodes, we linked a bunch of portals in the Nether. This one to get us back and forth from our base to here, and then another couple, one to just a beautiful, scenic location both in the overworld and the Nether, and another to connect to our spawn chunks. And one thing that we want to do in the fairly short term is make a little hangout or safety house, really, for our spawn, so that if we need to spawn there or go through that portal, we don't have to worry about showing up and having a creeper waiting for us as a welcoming committee. You know how that goes. So, I don't know. I kind of feel like I don't want to make more rockets until I have full stacks of gunpowder. How does that sound? Like, be proactive, don't just complain, but set things up to work the way I want them to. So we'll hang out. We'll get 3 stacks of gunpowder, because I can also top off these various tools. Not that I particularly need to. The other thing, no, I'm not gonna put the axe in the hoe away, because we've got lots to do. And one of those things I think is going to be going to the warped forest and chopping down some of the warp, maybe even the crimson forest as well. I don't know. We'll see how it all plays out. Okay, anytime, creepers. Just push on through. I do enjoy hanging out here, though. It's a great place to kind of start the day. I got some fresh coffee here. It's got a beautiful view. The sun is shining. Just nice. So, there's a couple things. Do we feel like going after our amethysts. We've talked about the need to get those. It kind of feeds into the storage situation. We've talked about wanting to run the tree farm to get more wood. For one thing, we're just very low. I think sticks even cut into our supply. But also, we want to expand our storage because things like all the pieces that are coming out of the amethyst geodes that we discover, and just various odds and ends don't have spots. We flew over the mesa, like episode 100, I think, and now this is 106, maybe. Yeah, flew out over the mesa, and that makes me go, that'd be kind of awesome to just core an area of that. All right, not quite there yet. So yeah, the other thing that we've talked about several times, maybe we do some of that today as well, is rolling for our Power 5 book. I don't know, we'll see. There's only like 5 of you. Ha 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 ha! Perfect. And my hoe is not. Now this is just overkill, but I'm in the mode. Alright, I'll put you away. No. Put you away here. All the tools are ready. Now, take this game. This is how we ensure flight duration 3 rockets all the time. As we can see, no partial stacks. These are all good rockets all the way along. And then we have spare paper. Leave that back here. We still have our glass box, so let's just gather things up. Those are rockets. Not gonna fly at the moment. Alright, let's go on back. Home again. Oh, I almost coffeed in the middle of the portal load, and that's always trouble. Which one's which here? Was that our end? No, I'm totally turned around. Here. Oh, that's right. We just made this one. Boom! Oh, don't worry, I'll come over here and get you. Oh, what? A little combat to start the day. Get our reflexes dialed up here. Very good. Alright, now that we're back and we get some of the green variety of slime. Switch this out, see how we did. How close to exit time we... Alright, we can leave those. We'll leave the box over there, though, to remind us. And Actually, maybe we should take what we've got. It was plenty. Close. And boom. All of those. We can do these first. 1, 2, 3. I did have microgreens right here. So we'll do a few, try to keep these working as we go. And no, yes. No, no. That. So we're making full-length fire res potions, which will give us 8 minutes each. And we're going to want a whole bunch of those. So flowing regen, usually, so yeah, we can just keep a whole box of them going here. Now the trick is going to be that we could have a full inventory. Oh, ooh, and room to grab these out, of course. This was our new fire resi spot. I think I'll just dump into here first and then come back around. I may as well hold on to these, right? We're gonna keep getting hit by them. Okay, those are awkwards now. Fire reses. So what else do we... Let's take a look up here. Let's see what we've got for spruce boughs. They're not boughs, they're saplings. Can we sleep? We can. Hey, let's sleep. want to get all those. Let's go back down here. Might as well be close and moving the potions. I need to get the fortune axe out. Actually, I don't, right? We decided that doesn't do a thing for us down here. Which kind of begs the question, what good is the fortune axe? So, why am I getting it out? Well, these are short. We want long. Then another row. Not the most glamorous of tasks, certainly, but it's keeping our glass going, which is great. And this will give us huge upside when we're these are awkwards. When we're down there getting our netherite. Dun, dun, dun. Threes. I don't know. I guess maybe we just hang for a bit. We could pick away at the floor now that we have glass and obsidian covered. We could do like a block a turn. What? Why? What's going on? What are you doing? Oh, I think I just made it. Wow. That was a habit of highly effective person there. Okay, those are awkward. Maybe we just focus on getting our potions done. These can all go away. And now maybe this time. Use it to refuel the brewing stands. What? Mundane? Somehow I broke that whole one. Oh no! These are garbage now. What did I do? Are you? It was such a good system until I messed it all up. I must have not awkwarded. Well, let's clear these. These are 8s. Whew, back on track. Why do I have? Oh, this must have been. It was somehow in that redstone that it all got broken. Okay, awkward to fire, awkward to fire, awkward to fire. Get a little bit ahead. Fire to long fire. Long fire. Long fire. Now, it's not a whole lot, but I don't want to quite blow up my whole inventory yet. We'll get more redstone. We just got to remember to put some loose in there. And if it really came to it, we could certainly break a bunch of blocks to get more redstone. Okay, these are all set. And boop, 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 boop. Anybody of adult age in the audience done any beer brewing? It was a huge deal. Maybe 15 to 20 years ago. And maybe it's always there and it just kind of progresses through, but I really feel like the explosion of microbreweries and, everybody popping up making their own beer and that whole mentality kind of took some of the novelty away. It's one of those things, but if you are 21, it's important. Here in the United States, maybe different in your country. I definitely recommend checking it out. I think, for those of us who enjoy a beer now and then, having brewed it, makes you appreciate more what goes in when something talks about the kinds of hops that are in a particular beer or something like that. You get a bigger understanding of what's going on there. Pretty cool. But it is a massive undertaking, and not like, oh, you have to be a genius, or it's so tricky to get the timing just right or anything like that. It's really, we often joked, I did it with a housemate of mine and then some friends that, lived in the area, but we kind of did it at our place. Had a big kitchen with kind of counters on two opposite sides of the stove and both sides of the sink and everything. So there's lots of working space. And really what brewing comes down to is an exercise in cleaning, like constantly doing dishes and making sure that, everything is sanitized as you go, because the way that beer ends up, well, one of the ways that beer can end up tasting bad or not being as good as it could be is to have impurities, either on the bottles that you're putting it into or any of the equipment that it's running through when it's brewing. It's very fragile in those states. So you constantly are constantly cleaning between the various stages, or boop, boop, boop. Let's go over here. Or when you're bottling it or anything like that, just very much a process like that, but it was not the box I wanted. I didn't want to put that box inside of that box. The night visions, I don't know. I think we're okay for a minute. Do we... What do we have here? Speed. Sounds like a zombie. What are you doing, dude? Where did you come from? First of all, did you come from in here? Oh, is there Enderman's dirt block? Oh, yeah, that was weird. Well, now that we have a bunch of random stuff, let's clean this up. So yeah, brew beer. If you drink it, I recommend it. Now there's a lot of equipment. Like I would say if you've thought about like, oh, someday I'd love to brew my own beer. You know, I like beer and I want to learn more. This sounds like me, Hambbage. What do I have to do? There's a couple things that I would recommend from the batches that we did. We did probably a dozen or so over the course of a year and a half, something like that, before it was kind of like, all right, we got it. It's so much easier to just go to the store. Plus, that was about the time, and I should say, living in Colorado and having gotten to Boulder in the mid-90s, I've kind of been ahead of the whole microbrew thing for a long time. There's been a few parts of the country that have really been about small batch brewing and that. And Washington State, Oregon, kind of that northwest corner of the country, and then Colorado have been huge. Northern California a little bit too, and some of the Great Lakes region has had long traditions of, the Great Lakes area has certainly been brewery heavy in all, think if you dip down as far as St. Louis, but then you have all the Milwaukee, Minneapolis, I think Chicago, Cleveland all have significant brewing operations. But when you think that Milwaukee's baseball team is the Brewers, yeah, they did a lot. And then on the opposite side, Minneapolis, I know was and St. Paul, that the Twin Cities area of Minnesota, that was a huge grain growing and milling area. In fact, the team that preceded, I think, could be wrong here, that preceded the Minnesota Twins as the Major League Baseball team, this is going way back, they became or were the Minneapolis Millers, and they may not have been full on MLB. I don't want to say that they were or weren't. Pretend like I know, because I don't. But yeah, the Millers, and grain milling, because the Mississippi River goes right through the middle of there. That's what the cities were built around, and there's a falls in the middle of the river there called the Falls of St. Anthony, and that was why the downtown kind of areas of those cities grew up where they did, was because the power of the falls led to a lot of mill wheel power, and all the farmers in the area could bring their grain, and they had massive ability to produce flour there. So we are now crouched. See, this is the one that gets tough. Hey, good. You actually did what I wanted you to. So, oh yeah, we did, and I missed it. That was a failed end of a recording. My C drive ran out of space or got to a buffer minimum. I think we'll just come across here. We kind of got wrecked on this. Not going to get a lot of logs here, but we'll do a few of these because I really do want to have loads and loads of wood. Should get us going. So what are we talking about? Milling, beer. Beer. Yeah, we love talking about beer. So when I came to Colorado, it was for university, for those of you folks not right around here, or college. And I have said many times, I'm still try to be, but different outlook on it now. But I try to stay athletic. I don't do the same like competitive team sports and stuff anymore. But I definitely stay active and all that. But in high school, I was, captain of my cross country team and did a bunch of endurance sports, Nordic skiing, cross country, and distance track events. So I was pretty focused nonstop on running, except in the winter when I do all the skiing and stuff. And as a result, high school, I was not at all in the party scene. Like, I was kind of the like, oh yeah, the made for TV movie. That's how life actually goes, because I just, I didn't get exposed to it. And that isn't to say I didn't have fun or have a social life. And I think it's a lie. I think it's one of those things that unfortunately popular culture gets very wrong, is this idea that all of the coming of age type stories and things are so heavily drug influenced in their scope. They perpetuate this idea that if you want to have fun, if you want to be one of the cool kids, you got to drink, you got to party. I didn't, and while I don't know that I was particularly in all the social circles, I generally seem to fit in with a lot of people. Didn't have too many mortal enemies or anything, and had a huge group of friends through my sports and things that were kind of the same mindset. And so we were never sitting at home on weekends or something going, what are we going to do? But we never went out drinking either. Never. I never saw a kegger. A few times in high school, I think, like, one of my buddies or parents would be out of town or would have had a party or something and had some beers in a fridge or something. We'd sneak one and split it just to, oh, hey, we had beer, and hated it, right? I was like, oh, what's the point? And that was about it. But again, that, it wasn't like, oh yeah, we couldn't get in. So like, Dazed and Confused, one of my favorite movies. That whole idea of like, oh yeah, the kids that weren't going to the beer bust had nothing to do but go around and walk the streets. And not where I grew up. We were having a blast. But again, I say all that just to say that when I did get to college, I kind of compensated quite a bit. I definitely enjoyed having a few of the barley pops, if you will, over the years, and not to the point that it it was ever an addiction or anything like that, but it just was like, oh, this is a different way of socializing that I didn't know about. So yeah, college, went to parties, did all that kind of stuff. Things that I no longer would ever consider, like Goldschlager, remember that? Or was the one that you like mixed Rumpelminz and Jaeger or something like that? Just awful combinations of relatively cheap booze, thinking you were adult and being so grown up. So, maybe I was just late. Maybe you guys all live this different life. But if you're out there and you're like, man, I never seen that kind of stuff, don't worry. Like, as an adult that's far on the other side, there will be loads of time to make up for it. And if you're having fun, don't worry about it. And don't think that you constantly have to be doing that kind of stuff. But again, for me coming to Colorado, in the midst of learning about, hey, this is how you can responsibly enjoy beer and all that kind of stuff. Now that was more of my parents. College, it wasn't so responsible, but the good news is, when you're not driving anywhere, it's a pretty safe environment to learn about those kinds of things. So we did, and in the midst of that, I was exposed to something I'd never known about before, obviously, which is the Great American Beer Festival. And I didn't go while I was in college. For one thing, I was too young, but I didn't have a car. It was in Denver. I was in Boulder. That was different worlds. But some of the older guys would, and they'd come back with stories. Oh, you wouldn't believe this place. So by the time I'd graduated and, become a member of the adult working world kind of deal, for sure we got tickets, and I've gone to a number of them. Not yearly, it's pretty expensive, especially, and now it's such a thing. Now ticket scalpers and everybody get their hands on it, and so it's like secondhand tickets or all that. You have to be a VIP, and it's just like concerts and everything else. It just a little tainted, but it also is so much bigger than it was when I first was going to it, where you'd go to this little part of the Denver Convention Center, an old convention center, and there's kind of like this central gallery and a balcony around the top, and then a lower floor, and hundreds of brewers all bringing their beer, and it was amazing. And you paid one price, and you get this little, I think maybe, no, that's not it. Maybe we left it in here? Nope. Now I gotta find it. Could be in the goodie, could be in the tool. Oh boy. It's gonna get exciting. Sorry. Yeah, so you get a little, it's like a 2-ounce glass. It's kind of, I don't know, like a, if you have fancy dishes or something like that, and you go to or you go to a brunch, and they have a special little glass for juice. It's kind of about that size, but it's usually, a little bit fluted, and way back in the day, they were made out of glass. They were legitimate glasses. And, back then there was probably 20,000 people, I'm guessing. I don't know. No idea. I'm bad at numbers and all that kind of stuff. But all these people in there, and you'd go around, and all these different little and big breweries would have a convention table and tent, and they'd have a couple of their different brews in, and then people with pitchers, and they would pour you an ounce. So think, like a shot, or for folks that aren't really of drinking age, I don't know what an ounce looks like. It's probably twice the size, maybe 3 times the amount that you would take, like if you were taking some cough syrup or something like that when you're sick. Something like that. Not a huge amount, but a mouthful or taste. And you go around and they say, well, we've got, this IPA or this brown or this session or, whatever the case may be. And IPAs weren't a deal back then. There would have been some, but it was kind of like, here's a stout, here's a pale, maybe. Here's like a wheat, and that was it. They'd have two or three, and you would go around and try these various ones, and some were flavored. I know, like back then, somebody made like a cherry wheat beer in a large format, and so that was, kind of a new trend was getting the fruit flavors and stuff into beer. So there's a lot of that, a lot of honeys and maybe a little bit of peppers, just different kinds of flavoring and stuff like that. So you get some of these novelties that you just couldn't find anywhere else. And then over a 3-day period, you would only, you'd get a ticket for a session. So you'd either go down like a Friday evening, Saturday evening, or Saturday afternoon. And yeah, all the people could just go along and drink as many of these little sips as you want. As you can imagine, anybody that's done any drinking, that ends up being quite a crazy scene by the end of the experience. Everybody's just had a lot of single ounces and are pretty well done in. Obviously, there's judges and people that are actually helping to run the competition. They're kind of at a different level. They're the ones that are actually like tasting and savoring and not trying to get to as many stands as you can. But you think about it, there's a thing called a drinking game that kids do called the Century Club, and that's where you take 100 1-ounce shots of beer, and that's usually the cheap stuff you get in like a suitcase-shaped cardboard box at the grocery store or the gas station or whatever, because you're a college kid and you can't afford good beer, so you get the big cheap stuff. But over the course of an hour and a half, just under 2 hours, every minute you do a sip. Done. Not many. Why am I up here? We didn't plant anything yet. Yeah, but in those, everybody just done. Dunzo. If you're in a safe circumstance, or doubt me, go ahead and give it a try. Yeah, just get a lot of beers. Remember, do the math. 12 ounces, and you're going to need 100 of those. 12 ounces in a can. So figure out how many cans of beer you're going to have in about just under 2 hours. It gets daunting. So anyway, no. Oh, this is all going wrong. Wasted a sapling. Stop pushing me down, trees. So you can imagine that in the course of like a 3-4 hour session where you can just, you can have more than one of those pours an hour, you can very quickly get to a point where you don't need any more beer. Let's just put it that way. And in those early years, I was like, what beer do we have? Because you would, at that point, you're going for value, right? It's like, oh yeah, I can drink this much beer. You grow out of that pretty quickly. At least I hope you do, because the body is not designed to go crazy like that. So anyway, you can get very, 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 very drunk. And a lot of people do or did. Um, Again, not as much because part of the pricing, and it becoming such a bigger event is it's not cost effective anymore to just go, oh yeah, I'm gonna go get really schnockered at this event. You can do that much more economically at different locations. Um, so that is a good thing on the pricing, I guess. But back in the day, you couldn't, and it was such a party, and it still is a party. It's absolute blast. It's up there with like Oktoberfest and some of those things in terms of just a party. But this is just one time. One couple hour session, as opposed to a full week in an entire city. This is just you're going into a convention center, but it is really fun. And back in the day, it used to with these glasses, if you dropped one, it would shatter. Quick, you can imagine that part doesn't really happen anymore. The safety people definitely got a hold of that one. Like, you want to what? No, 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 no. So now you get plastic cups, and they bounce and rattle around. But the tradition remains that it used to be, it's like if you've ever been in a restaurant and a tray dumps or something like that, and everybody kind of does the cheer, to like, and whoever did it feels embarrassed, if a glass breaks or anything like that. Well, it would be that, but it would be this whole convention hall full of people all cheering at once, and everybody would stop wherever they were. And then, back in the day, it used to be if you broke your glass, you'd get shamed, and you'd have to go back up to the front, and then they'd give you a plastic glass because you couldn't be trusted with glass anymore. It was awesome and hilarious, and such fun memories. But it did further refine a lot of beer and the different types, and the Great American Beer Festival itself, GABF, issues a gold medal, and it's marketing for the big guys, anybody really. It's among one of the biggest awards you can get as a brewer. This is not international, so there are some international prizes that are more widely regarded, but among the United States brewing community, it's pretty hefty, and they have different categories and all that. So you can win gold, silver, and bronze medals like the Olympics in different categories and classes and efforts. So whatever you're trying to achieve, you can go head to head with other people that want to do that. And while you're there, that's how things like the recent explosion, I guess it's not recent anymore, but the explosion of IPAs. More recently, sours was a thing. There's always kind of the new and trendy thing, and you'll notice for a while everybody's coming out with, it's like they say in the NFL, the National Football League, it's a copycat league, right? When somebody's winning doing something, everybody else is going to try it because it's working until the next thing comes along. Same thing goes with certainly marketing, but in that extent, brewing as well. Pretty cool. And so because of that, and because Boulder is kind of a little town near a big city that prides itself on being out there and different from the mainstream. It celebrates that, kind of markets itself as as such. It it fostered this small brewery idea, and the people that were, hey, Denver's really aware of this, has been going on for decades, and this is a great chance to go. Well, yeah, big community of small brewers grew up in the Colorado area. At first Boulder and scattered, but then up and down the Front Range and in the mountains. Think people that want to escape and kind of live in a town, it fits very well. And we had the legacy of the Coors family in Golden, Colorado, that had always made Denver, or Golden, Colorado, kind of the beer capital of the West, right? They're outside of those Midwest towns we already talked about. This was the big boy of the whole Western United States, and that's where, if you go back and watch like 70s and 80s movies of road trips, or dropping into small towns around, every bar out there has the Coors Banquet, the original Coors in the yellow cans, style signs hanging outside the door. That was just what it was. I grew up in the Midwest, so there it was. You had a whole bunch, and the little local neighborhood bar could be a Miller, could be Hams or Schlitz, or some of the other ones. I'm trying to think of the smaller, Bush. Just lots of different little brands that were big regionally but didn't spread. Well, in the West, there weren't as many of those places. So if you were in Idaho or Wyoming, or any of the other Western states, odds were that it was Coors that would, bring out the kind of just affordable mass macro brew type beer. So yeah, I kind of grew up into it, and because you'd see these and you'd kind of be familiar with them, and because the Great American Beer Festival was amid everything else, is for the brewers. It's not just a marketing deal. It is, and started as a convention for brewers to go and bring their stuff head to head, and it really, by design, is a convention of and for them. It just happens that a lot of people want to get in and get the side benefits. Well, one of those is maybe not and all the big boys have fancy, elaborate displays there too, but if you find a little brewery that's kind of just getting going, or is still independently owned and maybe has had some success, the owner and the head brewer and everybody are going to be right there, and odds are they want to talk to you. Depending on the session and how you are, they may be more than interested in talking to you, and like, hey, how'd you get your start? What? That's an awesome name. Or, oh, you're from this little town. I drove through there once, or I had an aunt there. There's so many stories, and it's such a connection that it's really cool. And that spread then back into the community. So as I grew up, you'd go into some of these small restaurant brewery kind of things, and you'd talk to the head brewer, and they'd say, oh yeah, I got my start because I was an assistant to so and so at this place, and you'd know those. And it while I've never been, I'm an IT guy and kind of out of the computer sides of the world who studied history, I don't have a strong tie to brewing or anything like that, but you do kind of feel like, oh yeah, I remember, I've heard that name or something like that. So really cool how that all grew up, and it was a part of why I think here in particular, home brewing was such a deal. That's how we got to this. I didn't completely forget. And kind of finished that last step for me of how our what are those guys working with, or how are they doing it? So having then brewed some beer myself, it's pretty cool, and I do recommend it. Again, if you're of age and in a position to do all this, um, give it a shot. But as I was also saying, and I kind of segued a couple times along the way, it's much like Minecraft. Sometimes you just do a lot of different projects. Um, we, oh, this is perfect. What was I just gonna say though? Oh yeah. So out here at least, and I'm sure online, you can go and order all the different stuff. You need a big pot to boil up your mash and all that. You need some piping and some funnels and things like that. And one of the main things you need at the homebrew level is a big glass jug called a carboy, and that's the kind of the fermenting tank that you would use at home, where you're gonna add the fuel for the yeast to grow and create the alcohol, and all of that can get, for one thing, it can get kind of expensive if you're gonna buy it all. The other thing is it's tedious to store. Like, it doesn't all collapse. You're gonna end up allocating a big spot. So there, at least out here, there were, I don't know how many there are. I don't know how many would have survived something like COVID. But there used to be places, it's kind of like the go for a date restaurant kind of deal, and you paint a picture while you're there, or you make some pottery or something. There's lots of these different places where you have an experience to go along with a meal or some drinks or whatever. It's kind of a deal. Well, you can do the same thing with brewing. So you kind of go for an evening, you hang out with your date, or a group of friends, or a work team or something like that. Everybody gets together, you put in the different ingredients, pick the hops and all that. They show you what to do, and by the end of it, you store the brew, and then they say come back in 3 to 6 weeks, depending on how long it needs to ferment, whatever, and we'll have your beer ready. And then you can either, probably they'd be happy to to facilitate you drinking it there, or however you want to do it. The other recommendation, I guess, that I would have from my experience is don't bottle your beer. Don't even think about bottling your beer to start. Um, some people may be familiar with the idea of portable post-mix soda, and that's where you have these big canisters. They're probably 2 feet long, 8 to 10 inches in diameter, and they're metal and pressurized. They kind of look about like a fire extinguisher, the big fire extinguisher type size, and they'll contain and have syrup and stuff like that, and then you can mix them to serve carbonated soda. Well, it's the same deal with beer. When you brew a batch, you can put them into those and pressurize it so that it'll stay carbonated, and you will have a beer. Kind of use it like a keg, or exactly like a keg. And those, I would recommend, as you're getting started. They're far easier to enjoy. It cuts the work like to a third. Bottling is massively messy, large, lots of cleaning of the bottles and all that. You got to seal them. It becomes assembly line and all that. So unless you've got a recipe that you've made several times and are very confident in, and then want to either give it as gifts, or have it where you can bring it camping, or something like that, I would say, for your own sake, just put it into a mini keg type dispensing thing. It'll save you a bunch of hassle, and you'll be able to enjoy it a lot more. So this has been Brew Talk with Hambbage. Something I really, believe it or not, I haven't done anything with in, man, I don't know, 10 years plus. But had a lot of fun, in case you can't tell, back when I was. It was a cool little project hobby kind of deal that never really went far, but was definitely fun to learn about, and If you are, a beer drinker and enjoy it, I think the same can be said for wine. I think people have done that. I haven't, so maybe that's something. Um, I think distilling becomes a little more dangerous. You might go blind. Isn't that the deal with bathtub gin? So, with no experience, I will say don't do that. But yeah, if you ever want to, give it a shot. It's kind of a fun experience, and you'll learn a skill and learn more about the. Then when you go into a restaurant that maybe does its own brewing, a brew pub kind of deal, um, you'll have a little something in common. You see all those pieces. You go into those places and they have the big tunes and fermenting tanks along the walls. You'll know, like, oh, there's the process. There's where we go along. So pretty cool. All right. Well, we have done some good in all the little like putsy stuff that we wanted to get done. We got our wood. We made a lot of potions, so we're ready to be resistant to the fire in the underworld. I think the next one that we're gonna do is, and in fact, now that I've just done all this, um, let's start with that. We're not making trapdoors here, right? We'll park it downstairs here because that's where we're going to want to get going. So the next one, I think we're going to do the storage. Expand all it. That will keep our glass going somewhere down here. And let's just check. Oh, we got a lot of glass. Still got a lot going there. How's our fuel? 58 and 64. So we are doing very well. Awesome. We'll come back. I'm sure we're long now. Thank you all so much. Thanks for letting me ramble about old old drinking stories and beer brewing and all the rest of that. If you do any of that kind of stuff, please be safe and responsible. Lots of years of experience, and I just say, no night of fun is worth the regret of either embarrassing yourself or it. For heaven's sake, don't get behind the wheel of a car. Whatever you do, that all of a sudden it could be an end of life instead of just you made a fool of yourself in front of a girl or anything like that. Just be very careful. It's not worth it, and it's easy to get carried away. So take it slow and pace yourself out. You can have a lot of fun, and of course, it's like so many other things in life. A moderate approach goes a long way to having a good long life and not letting it become something you might regret. So anyway, have an awesome little break. I know I'm going to. We're going to get right back after it. Do some storage. Do some maybe leather harvesting because we'll need to get a lot more item frames up too. So look forward to that. See you.